Welcome, everyone. We're going to discuss Liverpool against Norwich. I'll give you the highlights of the game, a little bit of highlights. We started with a 4-2-3-1. It was surprising. So we don't have Henderson, Thiago Alcantara in midfield, and I think it showed very much. Andy Robertson was not there. Again, I felt like there were some areas in which it showed basically. Norwich started with a 4-4-1-1, 4-4-2 formation. The reason I say that is not because they started that way, it's because this was their major position, especially when they were defending. When they were attacking, they were pretty good, so not a problem. What is interesting about this whole game, these are two different games in both halves. In the first half, you could see Norwich were really doing well. Of course, in the second half, they had a few chances, but we'll get to that. So, during the first 10 minutes, I think what we saw was a very well organized Norwich side that was keeping things tight. They were not committing an attack. They were just keeping everything intact. They were making sure that they were pressing in the middle, pressing high up, pressing in the wide areas. They actually did a very good job, in my opinion, for how it went. And what we saw throughout the game was Norwich could have done better, but I felt like they really lacked in key areas, things that we were able to overcome easily. During the first 10 minutes of the game, you could see that Liverpool's midfielders were non-existent in the pressing. So what happens is that when Norwich had the ball, they basically did this. This is what they did. And so if you play like this, what happens is you outnumber the midfield. And that's exactly what happened. Our midfielders just couldn't press the ball. And what you saw here was their fullbacks were getting good chances on both sides of the pitch, especially on this side, on this right side, Liverpool right side. The reason is because Mane was doing a very good job of covering this area. So I've given a bigger circle to Mane because I think throughout the game he was positionally brilliant. And he did a very good job of covering this whole area of the pitch and helping Kostas Tsimikas, especially in the first half. And what you saw was that Norwich attack was very much blunt this side. And so what they did was, especially in the first 15 minutes of the game, they did this. Right? They pushed everybody into this side of the pitch. And of course, because of Mo Salah, the fullback never got in. Actually, the fullbacks of Norwich never committed to the attack. But these players, they did good. And you could see that TAA in the first half did struggle containing everybody because Oxlade was doing an okay job. Mo Salah was okay, but nobody was really winning the ball, right? So let's say Milner comes in this position. What you have here is Trent Alexander-Arnold is probably the only player who knows how to tackle and win the ball. And that was basically not happening. And so we were kept, these players were getting in advanced positions. They were getting towards goal. Sometimes you would get a long ball from this direction. You'd get a long ball from this position or a short ball somewhere along here. And what you would see is that our defenders were a little bit stretched. So sometimes what would happen with these players would go here and these arrows would come this way. So they did find a little bit of joy, in between the centre backs. And I think they did well in that respect. It was a very clear plan. I thought Norwich was just going to keep attacking Trent Alexander-Arnold all game. But actually it turns out that their aim was not really Trent Alexander-Arnold. Norwich are very good in the wide areas. And in the second half, we saw this because in the second half, they all attacked in this direction. After the introduction of Firmino, we really couldn't defend too easily. And so they attacked in this direction. Now, we just couldn't press. We were kept getting overrun. But I would say our pressing improved, especially after 14th minute or 15th minute. You could see examples where we were, when we were attacking, we would get really high up the pitch. Alex Oxlade would really be able to squeeze the Norwich players we were able to do very well. Mane, for example, was covering this area, and Alex Oxlade really pushed the issue. Jota tried to, cover the spaces, and you could see that Norwich was struggling to get into the game. And I think this is where they kind of failed, Norwich, because you have to be good in the transition, and Norwich were not very good in the transition. When you have a fluid formation of 4-4-2 and then 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, you have to be fluid. And I guess they couldn't do it. I would say the coaching was good, the players, and probably the tactics were not that good from Norwich side. Attacking. So one of the main names, especially you would notice this throughout the game, was Jota was the point man, and that was surprising. Liverpool usually don't mind giving balls to, all the forward players. They don't mind putting the long ball in. VVD sometimes goes this way. And what's interesting is that Jota was the point man in this game, and you could see everybody trying to pass the ball to Jota. What happened was, I think Jota was overworked a little bit. Another issue is that Jota is not very suited to the center. He's best here. And in this position, he can completely kill defenses. He is a very good dribbler of the ball in that position. But here, he couldn't really get too much on the ball. But, he did his best, and I think it was okay. And I think what happened in the first half was that Liverpool's passing was not crisp or fast. And so, our attacks were kind of blunt. It was not working so much. So one example of this is, for example, I think in the 9th minute, what happened was you had a ball coming from this part of the pitch to Mane. And Mane was here, right? Naby Keita was here, Milner was here, Ox was here. Now, ignore the yellow balls for a minute. Jota was here, and Mo Salah was here. And so what you see happening is this discus-like pattern forming. The Olympic game discus sort of pattern like that. And you have to understand that the Norwich goal is here, right? And basically this was what was happening. We were doing this kind of stuff, and the idea is pretty simple. What you want to do is you want these players, Liverpool players, to come in, receive the ball, and then the wide man will start attacking this way. And as they attack, they're bringing in these players more quickly. They're expected to reach the areas of the pitch. The fullbacks are supposed to come in. And so the expectation is that the Norwich defenders would go in. They would curl up and struggle to actually do anything. And I would say in the first half, this did not work because Norwich did very well. Their positional sense was very good. They didn't stretch themselves so much. You could see that they were very cautious. But they also held their line there. I would say tactically they were very sound in the first half, because of which they managed to keep the ball afoot. But of course, as the game went on, things became slightly different. You will see this discus-shaped attack happening with Liverpool very commonly. This is not a very new phenomenon for Liverpool. We do this every year. It is taken a little bit from Manchester City, who do a very similar kind of thing, except what Man City do is they just completely overrun their opponents. Our midfielders are not that attack-minded, except for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. After the 15th minute, what happened was Liverpool improved in pressing, but in the center of the pitch, right? So what happened was, like I said, we were pressing well in the center, but in the wide areas, Norwich were still overrunning us, and they were still able to put extra men here. Sorry, extra men here beat our attackers, get in these positions which are very dangerous, and you could see this happening. What happened was our defenders were getting pulled in this direction. You could see Kostas Tsimikas playing more and more towards goal at some point, So I would say Norwich overall, they still, were winning the pressing game, especially in the wide areas. For some reason, throughout the game, we just couldn't defend the wide areas. There was something happening, I don't know. And Norwich were always trying to, give the medium length balls. These are all medium length balls that I want to mention here. They were just giving medium length balls so that they can, just create the play. And of course, their focus man was Timo Pukki, and they really tried to get the ball to him a lot. And you could see that for some reason, Milner was not there to cover Timo Pukki, and so he was able to get into the hole, bring these players in, and our attack, fizzled out sometimes. So I felt like that was interesting. You could see that this place was opening up. Similarly, this place was opening up, and so you could see that the attack was very much centralized on Timo Pukki, and we really didn't have much to say about it. So what that meant was we were always on our toes. So in the 26th minute, what happened was the tension broke finally. We scored our first goal, and we were pressing very well. So what was happening in this game was we were pressing in the middle very well. We were not very great at pressing in the sides, so Norwich had attacks, but we were also pressing very well. We were pushing the ball a little better, and so what we were doing is we were forcing the issue a little bit, and finally the deadlock broke. I think it was a good attack. Salah getting a little bit of touch on the ball. A little lucky because I think Salah wanted to control and get the shot himself, but his control led to Diego Jota perfectly, and he executed it brilliantly. I think that was the job Diego Jota had. Get the opportunities you have and make the most of them, and I think he did. Diego Jota did a very good job. But I would say overall, our first half was not that good. And listen, it's the first game of the season. I completely understand that we were not able to do so much. Our defending was not good. It's last season when we started, we were terrible in the first game. We were all over the place. Our passing was off. And I think the presence of Virgil van Dijk and Joel Matip was the main difference here. Because when you have experience on the pitch, right, it matters. And James Milner as our midfielder, I would say our midfield is kind of on life support. Unfortunately, it's not a very good midfield. We didn't play well in the midfield in the first half, but I think we improved. And because we improved, there's some hope. But I do think that Virgil van Dijk and Joe Matip were very important to how we played. Without them, I don't think we'd be able to say what a good position we were in. But here comes the second half, and I just love the second half because if we're being absolutely honest, the second half was a thing of beauty. We started the second half very purposeful, right? We basically managed to push Norwich all the way back. But of course, they were attacking, so they had their attacking chances, but we tried to push them as far back as possible. But they had their attacks. So like I said, Mane, was positionally brilliant in the first half, but second half he kind of let it go, and a lot of Norwich attack came from this direction, attacking at Kostas Tsimikas. I guess it was intended, but they used very similar tactics to the first half, where they would, basically give the ball to Timo Pukki, and Timo Pukki would basically try and link the attack, coming in behind, link the attack, try and overload. But the difference this half was that Liverpool counter-attacked brilliantly. The minute Liverpool got the ball, or the second Liverpool got the ball was going forward. The ball was completely going forward. It didn't matter who got it. Immediately the ball was shifted forward. And I think it was deliberate from Klopp telling the Liverpool players to do that, because in the first half you can see that, it was kind of slow and drab and everything. But in the second half, we just completely, the minute we touched the ball, we started at the attack. You could see Mo Salah trying to get into, positions not based on how good they are or how close they are to goal, but just getting free from the defenders. And so you could see that whenever these Mane or Salah received the ball, they were in complete open spaces. And I think another one of the reasons is because Norwich really committed to the attack during the first 10 minutes. So they really didn't have their shape. And what happened was Mane and Salah got a lot of space because of that. And the good thing is that before Norwich could press anybody, Liverpool just kept launching. Liverpool just kept launching the ball. They didn't care who was there. They just kept passing the ball. And you could see that, Trent Alexander-Arnold was doing the same thing. So you could see that Liverpool were not taking any prisoners. And brilliant start it was. It was quick counter-attacking, quick passing, quick switching of play. VVD was doing a great job just launching attacks in this side of the pitch, giving it to Ox here. It was really good stuff. And I don't think that just came from the Liverpool players deciding to do that. I think it was a deliberate attempt from Klopp trying to basically say, hey, listen, we're going to do this stuff. And it was really good to watch, because what was happening was we were completely overrunning Norwich. And Norwich, during the game started going back. They started going back and they started going into this, tight formation. They were afraid to attack much more than they were in the first half. And I like to call this the cocoon formation, because teams that defend this way, they form into small cocoons and they don't get out too often. And so in this game, in the second half, Liverpool did get a lot of space in the wide areas. And so what happened was, what that meant was that we were getting more comfortable as the game went on, which is pretty good, right? We attacked them, we pressed them, we counter-attacked them. We made it difficult for them to attack us. But they did have their chances, and you could see that sometimes Kostas Tsimikas made a mistake here and there. And I guess, in bigger games, we'd be punished harder. But, I think it was all right, in the end of the day. I think he will improve. This is my opinion. So it was all around fine. And I think the best thing that happened during the game was the two substitutions in the 60th minute of Fabinho and Bobby Firmino. But what this basically did was it changed the face of the game. Interestingly, I wouldn't say this improved Milner or Naby Keita, but what Fabinho did was he stopped in the center, right? Now the ball was no longer just coming from BVD and, Joel Matip or TAA. Now the ball was also coming from Fabinho. What that meant was our counterattacks kept, went from quick to super quick. And so what happened was, in the middle of the park, Norwich never got the time to settle down, right? So what would happen is Norwich would be attacking, but because we were really good in pressing the ball in the center of the park, we won the ball. And what would happen was immediately an attack would start. Immediately these spaces were attacked. And so what we were able to do is we were able to completely turn it around for our favor rather than for their favor. But again, like in the first half, in the wide areas, we were not very good at defending. A lot of the space here was left open. And I think one of the main reasons was when Bobby Firmino came in, I think there was a little bit of confusion between Firmino and Mane on who'd play in the center and who'd play in the wide areas. My guess is when Firmino first came out, he was supposed to play in the far left. Now, unfortunately, Mane, when he was here, he was playing like this, right? He was marshalling this whole area. When Firmino came in, he just went here. He came here, and what this did was this just opened up this whole space for Norwich. And so you could see Kostas Tsimikas was really in a lot of pressure during this period of the game, especially after Firmino came in. And I think after the 71st minute or something, they switched positions. Mane went back, but it was never the same. The game was never the same defensively. But attacking-wise, it was brilliant because Fabinho, and the thing is, Diego Jota, when he played here, he tried to come back, he tried to go forward, but he's a very different kind of player. He's the kind of player, I don't think he's very much suited for the center of the pitch, per se, because, there will be games in which he's effective in the center, but I think as a point man, I don't think he's that effective, because what Firmino did was he came in here, and this is how we started playing after a certain point. We started playing 4-diamond-2. We played a diamond formation. And so the minute Liverpool got the ball, again, we were launching attacks. And because of, the flexibility of Liverpool with our formation, Norwich just couldn't live with it. And like I said, they went into a very cocoonish formation where they're all, together. They're not attacking so much. And you could also see Liverpool doing this a little bit. They were also getting into cocoons, especially in the second half. And I think that was because they were tired. And so what happens is that Liverpool would be attacking, right? Liverpool would be attacking. They'd be very high up the pitch. And, Norwich will be getting a quick counter-attack all of a sudden. And the Liverpool players have to come back. And what they would do is they would hold this position. Because, it's fundamentally important that you hold the central position when you're defending. And so you could see Liverpool also getting into the cocoon, but when Norwich got into the cocoon, it was very visible. Because the numerical advantage we had in the center of the pitch, we were now able to launch attacks, and what that did was it put Mane and Salah in very good open spaces. These are very good spaces for the attackers. But again, Norwich defenders were not this deep. They were pretty high up. So, it was not terrible for Norwich, but it was not great either. And then you saw the second goal come, and that was when the tension finally released. You could see that Norwich were basically, they knew what was happening. They knew it was difficult. It's not easy. And, I completely get it. When you are a small team, you have to do your best. And they did their best, I think. We were too good in the end. In the especially once Norwich went into their cocoon state, our fullbacks got a lot of joy on the right side and the left side, and you could see that, Trent Alexander coming into this positions, crossing, it was all happening as usual. For me, watching the first half and the second half was like, it was a world of difference. I felt like the attacking really clicked. We really forced the issue. I think that's the number one point, right? A lot of players make bad passes. They make wrong passes. They don't give accurate passes. But you have to force the issue. And the best way is to be very, very quick. And Liverpool, the minute they got the ball, they pushed it forward. And, it worked for them. And I think that was very important. At the end of the day, we won 3-0. And I think it was a good win. First game of the season, the first half was okay. Second half was much better. We were, all over the pitch. We were completely killed. Norwich. We got a clean sheet, which Alisson had to save in the 86th minute. And what a save that was, right? Of course, you could say that the Norwich player didn't really put the ball behind the net, but, Alisson saved it. And we cleared the situation. I think that was the only time I felt like Norwich were going to score. Norwich, I think, had 12 or 13 shots and 2 on target. But that 86th minute was the only time I was like, okay, Norwich are going to score. Every other time, I'm not really afraid. Usually when you're watching Liverpool, you're afraid that they're going to score. But I always felt like the game was never in doubt. I felt like we were comfortable. We were threatened, of course, the wide areas, but I felt like we were comfortable. And once our attack started clicking, it was really good. If you look at man of the match, it's very difficult because I felt like this was a team performance, which I don't say usually. I felt like it was a team performance. It was very important. Very interestingly, Mo Salah got a goal and 2 assists, which I think was frankly interesting because Mo Salah's contribution in the game overall was not really that much, if we're being absolutely honest here. Most of his work was in drawing midfielders or players apart. He did try and create chances in the counter-attack, but his role was not really that great in the overall scheme because Mane, I felt like, really had great positional sense, really pressed well, really started attacks. He did all kinds of things, and Mo Salah not that much. But in the end of the day, he was in the right place in the right time. He made the right moves, and he was involved in all 3 goals. So obviously, he is the man of the match, in my opinion. We had Jota, Firmino, and Salah score, which is great. Mane is the only one who has to score, but it's okay. I think he will score in time. There was a lot of time for that. Overall, I think this is a very, very good game. If you look at the corners we took, right, both Trent Alexander and Kostas Tsimikas, they were good corners. I felt like we had, I think, 6 corners. All of them were good, and I think in the end of the day, that's very important. All of our corners were quick. They were fast. They had good height, but they also went into the right areas of the pitch. Our players had to get their head on it, and I think Norwich defended well. That's basically how I can say it, because every single player was marked. Every single position was marked. Liverpool didn't really get any free spaces in the corners because Norwich really did a good job, and I think Norwich probably practiced defending corners. Liverpool probably practiced attacking corners, and I felt like the 2 teams nullified each other, which I think is high praise. Norwich actually did a good job defending corners. I think one of the biggest differences and refreshing things I see from last season is that last season we would have 20 shots and 2 on target, and we would struggle to score. This season, of course, this is the first game of the season. Let's not read too much into it. We really forced the issue, in my opinion. And what that means is we got 3 points, goal difference of 3. Our clean sheet was kept again. Goal difference might not mean much, but maybe in the grand scheme of things, it probably does. And very refreshing to see Liverpool just dominate the ball. Now, of course, Norwich are newcomers in the Premier League, so let's not forget that. But it doesn't matter in a week where every single team won. All of the big teams won. We had to win, and we did. So our next game is Saturday, the 21st of August. It's Liverpool against Burnley, and Burnley are a difficult team. So, and then we play Chelsea. Okay. So I guess it's all good. So I'm very happy with the way we played. I think we did a good job. We can improve in several areas, like I mentioned. But it's what it is. Thank you for watching.